The stars shone over Earth, bright and distant, as if mocking the tiny blue planet below. Captain Orin stood on the bridge of the new warship prototype, feeling the weight of a world's hope on his shoulders. The ship was sleek, shining with polished metal, yet the public and the media laughed at it, calling it old, weak, and useless. "They say it's a toy," muttered Lieutenant Kira, checking the weapons systems. "They think we cannot fight the enemy fleet." Orin shook his head, his eyes scanning the starfield. "Let them laugh now, Kira, they will see the truth soon." The humans had built this warship to test new technologies, but Earth had faced a century of doubt and mockery. Politicians called it a failure before it had even left the docks, and scientists warned it would never survive the first battle. Yet, despite the ridicule, the ship's engines hummed with energy, almost as if it knew its purpose. The crew moved with careful precision, each step echoing through the corridors lined with glowing panels. Orin's voice broke the quiet. "Prepare for jump to the outer sector. The enemy fleet is gathering beyond Mars." Excitement and fear mixed in the air, the tension almost visible as the warship vibrated, ready to leave the safety of Earth's orbit. Meanwhile, the enemy had already begun their advance, ships larger than cities cutting across the darkness. Sensors picked up hundreds of vessels approaching, their energy weapons casting cold blue lights into space. The crew felt a chill, but no one spoke of fear openly. Each person focused on their tasks, their hands steady on the controls. Orin walked past the engineering bay, nodding at the chief. "Report on the shields." "They are holding steady, Captain, but the energy levels are fluctuating," replied the engineer, worry in his voice. Orin's eyes narrowed. "Good, we have enough time to test the prototype's weapons," he said calmly, though his heart raced. Down on Earth, news broadcasts showed the warship, calling it humanity's last failed hope. Children gathered around holoscreens, their eyes wide, imagining heroes and monsters in the void. Old veterans shook their heads, remembering wars fought long ago, while young engineers whispered about the new ship's hidden powers. In the bridge, Kira leaned over the navigation console, pointing at the approaching fleet. "They are coming faster than expected." Orin tapped the screen, activating the defensive systems. "Let them come, this ship is ready for more than they know." The crew held their breath as the first enemy scouts appeared, missiles streaking past like shooting stars. The warship moved with uncanny agility, dodging and weaving, the hull absorbing energy that should have torn it apart. The mocking voices on Earth began to falter as live feeds showed the ship surviving the impossible. Even the media commentators were silenced, unable to explain what they were seeing. Orin watched, calm and focused, the prototype glowing as its hidden systems activated. A soft hum filled the bridge, almost like the ship was alive, responding to its crew. The first explosion rocked the edge of the enemy fleet, a warning that Earth was not as weak as everyone had claimed. The crew exchanged glances, a spark of hope lighting their faces. "We might actually do this," whispered Kira. Orin nodded. "We will do this," he said firmly. "Let the galaxy remember, Earth's warriors never give up." And as the stars burned around them, the laughter of Earth skeptics faded into silence, replaced by the first whispers of awe and fear. The enemy fleet stretched across the darkness of space, a sea of metal and fire. Captain Orin stared at the massive ships on the screen, realizing that Earth's survival rested on the shoulders of a single warship. "Every ship they send could destroy us in seconds," murmured Lieutenant Kira, her fingers hovering over the console. Orin's jaw tightened. "Then we make every second count," he said, his voice steady, though inside his heart raced. The crew moved like a well-oiled machine, each knowing their place, each ready for the impossible. The human warship, small compared to the enemy fleet, floated with confidence, its hull glowing faintly with hidden energy. Missiles streaked past, leaving trails of fire against the stars, but the warship dodged with unnatural precision. "Shields are holding, Captain," reported Engineer Miro, sweat running down his face. "But the hull won't last much longer if they keep this up." Orin nodded. "Then it's time to show them what the prototype can really do," he said calmly, tapping commands into the console. A low hum filled the bridge as the weapon systems powered up, glowing with colors no one had seen before. The first salvo launched, energy beams streaking out like rivers of light, striking the enemy ships with precision. Explosions erupted across the fleet, sending debris spinning into the void, but still, countless ships advanced, relentless and merciless. The crew felt fear, but it was mixed with a strange awe, as if the ship itself guided their hands. Orin's mind raced through tactics, calculating moves faster than any human mind could, the warship responding as if it could read his thoughts. The enemy fired back, missiles and lasers colliding with the shields, shaking the hull, alarms blaring across the bridge. "Hull integrity dropping," yelled Miro. "We can't take much more of this." Orin clenched his fists. "Then we adapt, we fight smarter, not harder," he said, eyes fixed on the approaching command ship. The prototype warped slightly, bending space around it, and the enemy fleet faltered, unable to target a moving ghost. "Did you see that?" whispered Kira, her eyes wide. "It's almost alive." Orin nodded. "It's more than a machine, Kira, it's the last hope of humanity." The battle raged, a storm of fire and metal in the void, as the crew fought tirelessly against impossible odds. Explosions lit up the darkness, sending flashes across the bridge, but the warship pressed forward, cutting a path through the enemy. One by one, enemy ships were destroyed, but the cost was high, systems failing, alarms screaming, smoke filling the corridors. Orin gritted his teeth. "We cannot fall now, not when Earth is watching." Kira checked the sensors. "Captain, incoming fleet reinforcements, larger than before." Orin's eyes narrowed. "Then we fight until the last second," he said, a calm fury in his voice. The warship's core glowed brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat, as if drawing energy from the very stars. Missiles streaked past, exploding harmlessly against the glowing shields, while the human crew pressed on, fearless. Suddenly, the prototype emitted a wave of energy that pushed enemy ships back, scattering them like leaves in a storm. The crew stared in awe, realizing that the warship was not just surviving, it was fighting back. "This is impossible," muttered Lieutenant Kira. "How can one ship do all this?" Orin smiled grimly. "Because it's not just a ship, Kira, it's humanity's last warrior in the stars." And as the enemy fleet faltered, confusion spreading among their commanders, Orin knew the battle was far from over. But hope had returned to Earth, carried on the shoulders of the last human warship. Far beyond the human warship, hidden in the shadow of a dying star, a massive shape stirred. It had been asleep for thousands of years, buried under cosmic dust, forgotten by all who walked the stars. Legends called it the superwarship of the ancients, a weapon so powerful that entire fleets had vanished before its might. Sensors on the human warship flickered as they picked up an energy spike unlike anything they had ever seen. Lieutenant Kira gasped, "Captain, that energy, it's enormous. What is it?" Orin's eyes narrowed, his mind racing. "I don't know, but I think it's about to wake." The ancient ship shivered in the void, lights igniting across its hull, vast and brilliant, casting shadows across the nearby asteroids. Its engines rumbled with a power that made the human warship feel small, almost fragile. The enemy fleet noticed it too, their communications filled with panic, commanders unsure of what they faced. "Captain, it's huge, larger than anything in our database," reported Miro, his hands trembling over the console. Orin nodded, feeling a strange calm. "It's not here to attack us, yet, but it will fight the enemy." The ancient superwarship stretched across the dark space, scanning with glowing eyes of energy, each pulse sending shivers through the cosmos. The crew of the human warship could feel its presence, a silent power that seemed to read their intentions. "It's alive," whispered Kira, awe and fear mixing in her voice. "It knows we are here, it knows we fight for Earth." Orin placed a hand on the console, almost feeling the heartbeat of the massive vessel. "Then we are not alone anymore." The enemy fleet froze, their scanners unable to interpret the readings, their ships trembling under the invisible pressure. The human warship glowed as if responding to the ancient vessel, energy flowing between them, an unspoken bond forming in the void. "Captain, it's aligning with us," said Kira, her voice barely audible over the alarms. "It's helping us." Orin's heart pounded. "Then let them come. We are ready," he said, his eyes fixed on the horizon of space. The enemy fleet tried to regroup, sending scouts forward, but the ancient superwarship's presence was overwhelming. Missiles and lasers that once terrified humans now faltered, drifting harmlessly as invisible forces pushed them away. The prototype warship moved closer, almost dancing in formation with the giant ancient vessel. Crew members on the bridge felt a mix of awe and fear, their hands steady now as they realized the tide had changed. The ancient ship's engines glowed brighter, and with a silent roar, it began moving toward the enemy, massive enough to blot out distant stars. Orin gave a calm command, "Prepare weapons, but wait, let the superwarship strike first." The enemy fleet panicked, their formations breaking as they felt an unstoppable force approaching. "The legends, they were true," whispered Miro. "The superwarship of the ancients, it's real." Orin nodded, feeling the weight of history, and today, it has chosen to fight with humanity. Energy waves pulsed from the ancient vessel, reaching the human warship, boosting its systems, healing its shields, and empowering its weapons. The crew realized they were no longer alone, no longer the last hope struggling against impossible odds. Together, the ancient and human warships turned toward the enemy fleet, ready to strike a force the galaxy would never forget. And in the darkness of space, a silent voice seemed to echo in Orin's mind, "We awaken together, or all will fall." The stars trembled as the human warship and the ancient superwarship moved together, forming a line of unstoppable power. Captain Orin's hands hovered over the controls, every decision critical, every second a matter of life and death. The enemy fleet tried to flee, but the massive glow of the two ships struck fear into their hearts. "Captain, they are regrouping, trying to escape," said Lieutenant Kira, eyes wide as explosions lit the distance. Orin's lips pressed tight. "Then we hunt them, all of them," he said firmly. "Earth cannot fail today." The ancient superwarship surged forward, its engines leaving trails of energy that bent the very light around them. Missiles from the enemy fleet were intercepted before they reached the human warship, absorbed by the shields of the ancient vessel. The two ships moved in perfect harmony, as if connected by a single mind, their combined power overwhelming the enemy. Laser beams and energy blasts collided in the void, turning space into a storm of fire and light. Explosions sent fragments spinning, small ships crumpling like paper, while massive destroyers were ripped apart by invisible forces. "Look at them," cried Kira. "It's like watching a legend fight." Orin nodded, sweat dripping from his forehead. "No, it's not a legend, it's history being made." The human warship's weapons glowed brighter, boosted by the ancient ship, sending pulses that cut through enemy formations. Commanders in the enemy fleet panicked, shouting orders that were ignored, their systems failing under pressure. "Shields are holding, barely," shouted Engineer Miro, adjusting energy levels frantically. Orin's eyes never left the battlefield. "Keep fighting, keep moving, we are not done yet." The enemy tried to target the ancient vessel directly, firing volleys meant to destroy it instantly. But the superwarship deflected them effortlessly, each blast absorbed or redirected, leaving the enemy stunned and powerless. The human warship dodged and weaved, finding openings in the enemy line, striking where the ancient vessel could not. Crew members whispered in awe, realizing that they were witnessing the combined power of two different eras, two different worlds. The void around them burned with energy, lighting the darkness, painting streaks of fire across the stars. One by one, the enemy ships began to crumble, unable to survive the perfect storm of power before them. Orin gave a quiet order, "Push forward, break their command center, end this." The ancient superwarship emitted a massive pulse, a wave of energy that tore through the remaining fleet, scattering ships in all directions. Explosions erupted across the battlefield, asteroids and debris caught in the blast, turning the void into chaos. The human crew fought tirelessly, every weapon and system working in harmony with the ancient vessel. Kira could barely breathe, her hands shaking. "Captain, it's over, we've won." Orin shook his head slightly, eyes scanning the remnants of the enemy fleet. "Not yet, we finish the fight, then we celebrate." The enemy tried one last desperate attack, a massive missile aimed at the human warship's core. But the ancient superwarship blocked it, absorbing the blast, sending shockwaves that destroyed nearby vessels. The remaining enemy ships fled, scattering across space, terrified of the unstoppable power that had just risen. Orin exhaled, looking at his crew, exhausted but alive. "We did it. Earth is safe, for now." The stars returned to silence, but the memory of the battle would echo across the galaxy. Two ships, one ancient and one human, had changed the course of history, and the galaxy would never forget the clash of the Titans. The enemy fleet had scattered across the stars, defeated, broken, and afraid. Captain Orin looked over the bridge, exhaustion and relief mixing in his chest. The human warship floated among the debris, damaged but still shining, its core glowing softly. Shields holding at 50%, Hull integrity stable, reported Engineer Miro, wiping sweat from his face. Orin nodded, his eyes scanning the stars. We survived. We actually survived, he whispered, almost in disbelief. The crew, tired and battered, began to smile, some laughing quietly, others staring at the fading flashes of battle. Lieutenant Kira pressed her hand to the console. Captain, the ancient ship, it's gone, she said softly, awe in her voice. Orin's lips curved into a small smile. It fulfilled its purpose. It returned to the stars, as quietly as it appeared. Across Earth, transmissions showed the last human warship standing victorious, and the public could hardly believe their eyes. Children cheered, eyes wide with wonder, imagining heroes in the void, their dreams alive with hope. News channels, once mocking the prototype, now broadcast stories of courage and strength, voices filled with reverence. Old veterans wept quietly, remembering past wars and realizing that humanity had survived against impossible odds. The prototype warship, once ridiculed and doubted, now shone as a symbol of hope and resilience. Crew members gathered on the bridge, silent for a moment, feeling the weight of history, knowing they had done something extraordinary. Orin walked slowly to the observation deck, staring at the stars. Earth will remember this day forever, he said, his voice calm but proud. Kira leaned beside him. We proved them wrong, every doubter, every mocking voice, they were wrong. Orin's gaze hardened. We were never weak, we just needed the courage to rise. A soft hum resonated through the ship, almost like a heartbeat, reminding them of the bond between humanity and the ancient superwarship. Do you think it will return? Kira asked quietly, eyes on the empty void. Orin smiled faintly. Perhaps, but even if it doesn't, we have learned our own power. We can defend ourselves. The crew began repairs, working together, sharing stories of bravery and teamwork, laughter mixing with the hum of the engines. Outside, the stars were peaceful again, the remnants of the enemy fleet scattered like ashes across the galaxy. Orin looked at his crew, pride swelling in his chest. Today, humanity proved that no force in the galaxy can underestimate us. The ship glowed softly as they set a course back to Earth, carrying news of victory and the courage of those who had fought. Messages from the planet poured in, voices of gratitude and admiration filling the comms. Children waved holographic flags, engineers shared sketches of the ship, and artists painted the battles in vivid colors. Orin watched, silently proud. This is what we fight for, not glory, not fear, but hope. The human warship, once laughed at, had become a legend, a reminder that even the smallest and weakest can rise against the greatest threats. And in the quiet of the stars, Captain Orin whispered, "We are humanity, and we will always fight, and always rise." The galaxy would remember this day forever, when Earth's last human warship survived, and humanity's courage shone brighter than any weapon. The prototype, the crew, and the ancient superwarship had together carved a story of triumph into the stars. And as they approached home, Earth itself seemed to shine a little brighter, celebrating its children who dared to stand and fight.